I got a note this morning from my friend and brilliant author, historian Harvey Kay, teaches up in Madison, as I recall, Wisconsin. And say what? Green Bay. Thank you. Thank you. You got to shout it out, Jim. I only got one ear that works here. The IFB is in the other. Anyhow, this is a piece that he wrote back actually the day before the 4th of July this year. It was July 3rd. And it was published by Bill Moyer's piece. But basically, he goes through all these things that social democracy is, and he says social democracy is 100% American. And I'm really starting to get concerned. If anybody from the Bernie Sanders campaign is listening, please take what I have to say seriously. You can't, generally speaking, win an election by saying we have to become like another country. You can, however, easily win an election by saying we need to go back to our core principles and values. And we can simply relabel them. Right? I mean, Nixon did this with family values and Jerry Falwell. I mean, there's no shortage of times that we have kind of relabeled terms. The word liberal, I mean, Rush Limbaugh turned the word liberal into a dirty word. It's kind of come back now. Conservative used to be kind of a dirty word. Now it's, who knows. But socialism, and it concerns me that Bernie is saying, okay, democratic socialism, that's like what they have in Denmark. And now I'm, by the way, seeing all over the web all these things about how the Danes commit higher rates of suicide and whatnot. Well, that's true of most of the very far northern countries. It probably has to do with seasonal affective disorder. But, life is generally good. All the indexes of life in Denmark are better. But it's not, we shouldn't be, I personally, this is my own personal opinion. I could be totally wrong. Nobody from the campaign has asked my advice. And so this is completely unsolicited and it may well be worth exactly what it is. But I think if I was running for president and I was calling myself a democratic socialist, I would say I am a democratic socialist in the fine tradition of Franklin Roosevelt. Franklin Roosevelt said that when capitalism fails, democratic socialism has to step in. And when capitalism refused to hire people, Franklin Roosevelt put them to work through the WPA and the CCC. Franklin Roosevelt pointed out that when capitalism screws workers, that the government has to step in. Democratic socialism has to step in. And he made unions legal and encouraged them. Franklin Roosevelt said that when people in their old age are falling through the cracks of society and dying of starvation and freezing to death in the winter because of poverty, that democratic socialism has to step in and fix that with an old age pension program that we call Social Security, which is one of the purest manifestations of democratic socialism in America. So if you like if you like Social Security, if you like Medicare, if you like Medicaid, that free stuff that Jeb Bush talks about that the Republicans hate, if you like that, you're a democratic socialist. If you like having free roads, not toll roads that are owned by billionaires who are making a profit on them, but if you like free roads, if you like a national transportation system, if you'd like to have a good rail system like we once had, not, you could say like Germany has or Denmark has, but hey, we once had it. I used to live in, Louise and I lived in rural Vermont, out in Northfield, Vermont, and there's a train station. There used to be trains that stopped in every little town. This country was just crisscrossed with railroad tracks and train cars. This was, before automobiles were widely available. This is the late 1800s to the 1930s, 1940s. But we have a long tradition of democratic socialism in the United States. Ben Franklin, for goodness sakes, was a democratic socialist. He created the first public libraries. There's nothing more democratic socialist than that. It's the government saying we're going to take tax dollars and we're going to spend them for the public good. Unfortunately, Bernie's doubling down on his "we want to be like Denmark" thing, and I think this is really, really going to hurt him. Here's what he had to say.
What democratic socialism is about is having a government which reflects the interest of ordinary people rather than is currently the case the billionaire class. I am Senator Bernie Sanders, and I would love to take your questions. If you look at countries throughout Europe, especially in Scandinavia, you find that healthcare is a right of all of their people. And in fact, they do it in a lot more cost-effective way. There is no great debate about the cost of college education in those countries because by and large, college education is free. You have in all of those countries workers having significant benefits in terms of pay, vacation time, and medical leave. You have very strong childcare systems in all of those countries. And by the way, in most of those countries, the voter turnout is a lot higher than it is in the United States, and they have pretty vigorous democracies. So what democratic socialism means to me is creating a government and policies that work for ordinary people, rather where our political system is dominated by large campaign donors who are working for the very wealthy.
Great. It'll be interesting to see what the response is to it. And it's educational. But again, only 3% of Americans even have passports. I would say there was a time in the United States, and this was my father's generation, when if you had a high school diploma, you had a good job, you had health insurance, you had a pension, you had a retirement, you could buy a house. All of those things were brought to you by democratic socialism in the United States. And Reaganism has been the repudiation of democratic socialism, and it's time to undo Reaganism.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-536-2370.
So, it's entirely possible that Bernie's campaign folks are a whole lot smarter than I am, and we'll see how this plays out. And as you know, I wish him all the very best.